morning. I am Ihab Basha from Expanded Program on Immunization, Ministry of Health and Population, Egypt. I will present about evaluation of neonatal tetanus surveillance in Aswan Governorate in 2015. Egypt has achieved neonatal tetanus elimination since 2007. Neonatal tetanus is a disease of high case fatality rate up to 90%. In 2015, case fatality rate of the disease in Egypt was 50%. About the incidence rate of the disease in Egypt in 2015, it was 0.002 per 1,000 live births, while the case fatality rate in Aswan Governorate was 0.023 per 1,000 live births. We can notice here that incidence rate in Aswan Governorate in 2015 was 10 times the incidence rate nationwide in Egypt. Neonatal tetanus surveillance is very important in order to assure that all levels not exceed the limit of elimination of neonatal tetanus, which is 1 case per 1,000 live births. Here we can see the flow chart of neonatal tetanus surveillance in Egypt, starting with reporting sites, which are both governmental and private sites. Governmental hospitals, primary health care units, and fever hospitals from governmental sector, and private hospitals and private clinics from private sectors. Here, each reporting site has one of two pathways. If there is cases which comply with the case definition of neonatal tetanus, so it should be immediately reported to the health office. The health office is the first level of health care in Egypt, primary health care units. And then it should be immediately reported from the health office to health district, then to the governorate, till be immediately reported to EPI central office. The other pathway is if there is no cases of neonatal tetanus in the month, there should be a zero report, which should be sent to the health office from the reporting site, then compiled at the health office and sent to the health district before the 5th day of the second month, then to the governorate and to EPI central office. Our objective is to evaluate neonatal tetanus surveillance in Aswan Governorate in 2015 through evaluation of 5 attributes: simplicity, sensitivity, acceptability, flexibility, and data quality. About the case definition used in surveillance of neonatal tetanus in Egypt, it's according to WHO recommended case definition. Suspected case is any death between the 3rd and the 28th day after birth for unknown cause, while confirmed case is that suspected case which has the clinical picture of neonatal tetanus. About sensitivity evaluation, it was done through review for this register in Aswan Governorate to filter all diseases between the 3rd day and the 28th day, or after birth, really. These diseases were reviewed to find the cause of death, and if the cause of death is unknown or the clinical picture of the case before death was like the neonatal tetanus, so it is calculated as a missed case. Then sensitivity is calculated according to equation number of reported cases divided by number of reported cases plus missed cases. Quotient is multiplied by 100. About data quality, it was evaluated through evaluation of 2 sub-attributes: completeness and timeliness. Here, as the first pathway of the surveillance is very rare, as the number of cases of neonatal tetanus is so small in Egypt, so we depended on zero reporting to detect and to evaluate completeness and timeliness. Timeliness was calculated as the number of zero reports that was arrived to health district before the 5th day of the month, divided by the number of zero reports that should have been arrived to the health district, which can be calculated by the number of health offices multiplied by 12, the number of months per year. The quotient is multiplied by 100. About the completeness, it is the same equation of the timeliness, but with different numerator, as the numerator here was the total number of zero reports which were arrived to the health district whenever it was arrived, on time during the first 5 days or late reports. Here is our data collection sheet, which was used to collect data from health offices, health districts, and our governorate. Simplicity, flexibility, and acceptability, the 3 attributes of surveillance, were evaluated through cross-sectional study, targeting all surveillance officers of neonatal tetanus in governorate and district level. Here we didn't make sampling. We take all population, all those focal points or surveillance officers who work for neonatal tetanus at governorate and district level, because the number isn't so high. It's a small number. Here our data collection tool, it's a questionnaire. It's made of 17 questions. 10 reflect simplicity, 1 reflect flexibility, and 6 questions reflect acceptability of the system. Each question is of 4 answers. Yes, no, sometimes, and I don't know the answer. It's not applicable for my field of work. If the answer is yes, it's given 3 marks. If the answer is no, it will be given 1 mark. And if the answer is sometimes, it will be given 2 marks. If I don't know, the 3 marks will be subtracted from the numerator and denominator. About our result, for sensitivity, there was no any missed case of neonatal tetanus in Aswan in 2015 after review for 140 deaths between the 3rd and the 28th day after birth. About the completeness and timeliness, completeness was 82%, while timeliness was 78%. This means that there were 4% of zero reports which were late delivered. About simplicity, for governorate level, it was 81%. For district level, it was 83%. About the weakest point in simplicity, here we made deeper analysis in questions for simplicity, as each question reflects 1 pillar for simplicity attributes. So we found that there is 3 weakest points. The first, that the employees saw that it isn't so simple to complete the zero reports form and the form for reporting. Also, the availability of number of forms, how to make copies and like that. The third one is the ability of them to analyze data. About flexibility, it was 100% on governorate and district level. About acceptability, it was 74 for governorate level and 71 for district level. By the same way we did in simplicity, the weakest point in acceptability, that employees don't know the current situation of disease in the country. The national guidelines for elimination of neonatal tetanus isn't easily available to them. Now we can conclude that neonatal tetanus surveillance in Aswan in 2015 is sensitive system, it is flexible, acceptability is somewhat low, completeness is more than the cutoff point made by WHO. It's more than 80%, but it is still on the borderline. About timeliness, it's less than the cutoff point made by WHO, as it is less than 80%. Our recommendation were comprehensive training program for all those who work for neonatal tetanus surveillance. And the second is redissemination for guidelines for neonatal tetanus elimination on all levels. I want to thank all those who work with us for this project and my leaders in the Ministry of Health. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ihab, for this interesting evaluation and results. So I will leave the floor for the question, and then you go. Any question? Okay. I have a question. If nobody has a question. You have? Okay.
You told that reporting is monthly, or daily reporting was also there. In slide number 2 or 3, you mentioned it is immediate. Can you go to slide 2 or 3? Slide 2.
Slide 2.
Seconds.
This one?
Next. Immediate notification to the government. Do you have the daily reporting also, or you have only monthly reporting?
Again, please.
Daily reporting is there, or you report only on monthly basis?
Yes. For reporting of cases, it's immediately reporting.
That is, you mean within 24 hours? Within 24 hours? Like I want to know, like, what's the time?
No, it's immediately reporting. Just after you know that there is a case which you comply with the neonatal tetanus case definition, it should be immediately reported by fax or telephone to the health office. Then the health office using also fax to send it to the next level. It should be delivered to the central level in API, not maximum than 30 minutes.
Were there any reviews to find out if they are reported on time at the peripheral level? Review meetings.
What?
Reviews to check if the reporting is done on daily basis, or
are they complying to the 30 minutes at peripheral level?
Yes. Really, as I said, we depended on, when we evaluated timeliness, on 0 reports, because the number of cases of neonatal tetanus which is reported in Egypt is so small. So we can't make evaluation for the reporting of cases. But I can tell you that the cases are reporting, yes, immediately.
Okay. Other question?
Thank you very much for the nice presentation. How many sites are reporting on monthly basis?
Yes. How can you what?
How many sites?
Sites. Here, all private clinics, private hospitals, governmental hospitals, and fever hospitals and the health unit reported to the health office, all of them. Then all health offices reported to the health district. The number is different according to how many private clinics, how many fever hospitals in each district which report to the next level. The number is different. It isn't.
What is the number?
The number in Egypt as a whole? In Aswan, it's more than 500 sites. It's about 424 or 26. Yes.
Next question.
Yes, thank you very much for this nice presentation. And the design of the surveillance is okay, but what worries me is how you diagnose these cases. Because you mentioned the suspected cases, any deaths between birth and 28 days, sorry. So the question to diagnose neonatal tetanus is not an easy job, actually, especially the people who died already, the infants who died, the neonates who died, and then you are depending on death certificate or whatever, and it can be mixed with a lot of other things causes sepsis in the neonatal period. So especially you are mentioning even in the confirmed cases, you are not relying on any laboratory services. So actually, if the input is questionable, then you need a lot to improve on the diagnosis and to rely on correct information for inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. About the case definition for suspected cases and the confirmed cases of neonatal tetanus, it is the case definition for WHO. Yes, it's any deaths between the 3rd day and the 28th day, but the clinical picture of neonatal tetanus is very known. It is child who was very normal during the first 2 days, then he stopped breastfeeding and stopped the ability of suckling after that, between the 3rd and the 28th day. And all cases of neonatal tetanus mainly are hospitalized in fever hospital. So it is easy by review of the medical record of the case to find if it is confirmed case or not. I know it's hard because it is death.
So it is mainly on clinical history.
On clinical history, yes, by the medical record of the case.
Other, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for a great job and clear presentation. But it is not question. I only wondering that attribute of completeness was not estimated properly, because for me, completeness defines how completely was collected information about each cases and how timely it was, how on time it was presented. Yes. And from your presentation, I could not see that information about each cases, how completely was collected, you estimated or no?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yes, I am with you that completeness and the timeliness is better to be evaluated through the cases itself, the reports of the cases. And by the way, during this work, we make a revision for the cases, and it was 100% completeness. But as the number of cases is so small, so statistically we can't say here that the completeness, if we use the reporting forms of the cases, I will see that the completeness is 100% and the timeliness, as the one who asked before, is 100% because the 2 cases or these 3 cases were reported during 30 minutes to the central level. It's 100 if I use this method. So I went to another way, which is the second pathway of the 0 reports. But if you are asking about the reporting forms of the cases itself, of reported cases, it's 100 completed.
Okay. I'm interested how many variables you collect for each cases. How many variables you collected? What questions is included in the surveillance system?
Yes.
If there is some questions about this case or no?
The variables in the notification form is 50 variables.
Yes, and
2 pages.
I'm interested. All these 15 variables is collected for each cases completely.
All are collected
Okay.
because the number of cases is so small. So it's
you.
made by high quality.
Last question, because we are running out of time.
Thank you for this very nice presentation. I would like to ask you about home delivery, if you have estimate home delivery, and if deaths related to babies who are not notified because of home delivery, and if you cross your data with the register of death or your register related to this kind of issue.
Yes, this may be a limitation for this study, that if there is a death at home delivery and it isn't registered as a birth, it wouldn't be registered as a death, and so it will be missed. Yes, it's a limitation of the study.
Thank you, Ihab, for this interesting presentation. Thank you.